One of the most common concerns and questions I hear this time of the year is, am I doing the right thing? Or, I don't know if this is really what's best for my child. I'm concerned. I'm feeling like there could be something different or something better. And if you're asking that or you have that specific concern, what you're actually asking is something that comes from a very thoughtful parent. February and March is when families really start comparing. You've either received assessment data, you have friends talking about other options, grandparents asking questions, and enrollment windows opening. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about what a non-traditional school looks like, feels like, and how do we know it's the best fit for a student. Welcome to the Redream Education Podcast. I'm Mackenzie Oliver, microschool founder, educator, coach, and believer in the power of starting small, dreaming boldly, and rebuilding the future of education one courageous step at a time. If you're here, it's because something in your life, your classroom, your family, your child, your community, or your calling is asking for a new dream, a wiser dream, a redream. This podcast is where we challenge the old models, rethink what learning can be, and build innovative pathways for children, families, and communities. Each week, you'll gain the systems, strategies, stories, and soul work you need to design personalized learning, understand how education is changing for the better, start or scale a micro school, lead with confidence, make a change for your family, and create an education model that actually works for today's world. Because you aren't just dreaming of something different, you are building it. This is a space where we re-envision what school can be, reimagine how children learn, and rebuild the systems that were never designed to meet the needs of our future and current generation. This is a podcast to redream education as we share insights, strategies, stories, and tools to teach our children better, transform learning at home, support innovative education models, and invest financially or personally in the future of students everywhere. Because you aren't just dreaming about a better education, you're part of the movement to create it. Welcome to the Redream Education Podcast. This is where the future begins. If you are listening to this podcast, you may be new and you are reevaluating school. If you've been around this podcast for the past several years, you are probably a teacher or a past teacher who's still rekindling their flame for the education as a whole, but you want to do it differently. If you are a parent, you're probably considering so many options or just trying to research and learn what is best for your child. And you may have either an overwhelming response to new types of schooling, or maybe you're struggling because you don't know where to even begin. If you are a teacher, you are thinking, if I build it, will they come? And how can I make sure that those who do come are the right fit for our school? None of us are alone in reevaluating what school can look like, feel like. According to a national survey found in School Choice Awareness, more than 60% of U.S. parents considered sending at least one child to a different learning environment in the past year. And non-traditional options are no longer a tiny niche. According to the Pew Research Center, data shows that K-12 students were homeschooled by 3.4% more year after year after the COVID pandemic. This is what really matters. When weighing different options for yourself as an educator or for a parent, rechecking your decision or rethinking, is this working? It's not strange. It's absolutely normal. So for non-traditional schooling, I remember the term alternative back in the day, but I remember alternative was really a setting for students who were not thriving in the traditional school, but they were still a part of public school. Typically, they had behaviors or learning needs that could not be administered educationally in their regular public environment, and they were tremendously at risk. But non-traditional schooling is simply meaning not traditional, as in like what we have seen since the Industrial Revolution. When some people hear non-traditional, they could have all different types of pictures. They might say, oh, that just seems chaotic. I want the thing that I've always known. Or maybe a lack of structure, or maybe even something experimental. But a healthy, non-traditional school is not chaotic, it's not unstructured, and it's not different just to be different. What non-traditional really means, and from my experience and working with hundreds of microschool owners, we organize school around what children actually need to learn and learn well. And we build systems around relationships, pacing, and support that helps that child. So traditional model equaled age-based pacing and grade-based reporting. But non-traditional models really focus on mastery and growth, support, and partnership. All the things that we know are so advantageous for children, yet once we get into the real world of teaching, we're bound by curriculums and models that attend to the masses. So now let's discuss what non-traditional schools truly prioritize. And I want to also share research to back the why of why non-traditional schools prioritize the following. So my list would be for Lighthouse Learning, and I'm sure that many of you, if you have your own micro school, can relate, and maybe you have a couple other outliers, but what I've seen are the core four. Number one, fit over speed. We're not trying to rush kids through. That's speedy. We're trying to build confident learners, which is the biggest fit. Parents are typically overwhelmed because school often becomes a race, a competition, but a mastery approach, making sure the child truly does understand what they are taught, flips the script on that. There's also growth over grades. Grades typically are a summary, but growth tells a story. So honestly, how difficult is it for a teacher to show a child's growth? In my experience, it's always been, oh, they had a C first quarter, but second quarter, they raised it up to a B. But what they were taught in first quarter, has that been mastered by second quarter? Are the topics taught in second quarter easier or just more towards their learning style than first quarter? Are they more comfortable second quarter and more socially accepted and have a better sense of belonging, which is why they have better academic growth? Because research shows that students who have social belonging first are the ones who have the greatest academic growth, which means that it's not academic growth that gives students social belonging. It's social belonging that leads to academic growth, which leads me to my next point, belonging over comparison. So we talked about two so far, two of the core four of what non-traditional schools prioritize, and that is a fit over speed, growth over grades, even though you may be getting grades, belonging over comparison. So belonging is not just extra nice. It literally affects motivation, behavior, and learning. There was actually a very large meta-analytic review found that school belonging is positively related to students' academic, motivational, social emotional, and behavioral outcomes. I actually just spoke about this at our most recent open house at school, and this is by Taylor and Francis, that it is social belonging, which I truly do believe is what makes non-traditional schools set apart. I'll give you an example. We just had a student. He actually was with us the first year of our micro school. He left for a couple years and he came back. And I know the student very well. Well, in the enrichment class, they've been learning about poetry and different types of writing. This student was so motivated by what the teacher had been providing them as learners that he nonstop started writing out raps, like music raps. And my daughter, she comes and she is out at the playground. She volunteers. She's in high school. And she said, Mom, I saw the boy walking around the playground with his notebook and a pen and was talking to himself. And I said, he was writing and practicing his rap. I told him, I said, we would love for you on our Wednesday morning MVP to stand up in front of the school and sing your rap to everyone. And he's like, I cannot do that. Yes, you can. You can do it. We believe in you. I can't do it. I can't do it. Nonetheless, he was so motivated. He had such a sense of belonging. He came up on the stage last Wednesday with his buddies around him and he rapped a song and he got a standing ovation. This is what allows our students to not only be successful, but to feel successful. Belonging doesn't replace academics. It strengthens them. And the fourth part of the core four to prioritize is partnership over pressure. We don't want parents to feel like they are guessing. We want them to feel like they are a part of the team when it comes to events, to fundraising, to ideas, to strengthening the culture, to seeing their child's progress. If you are a teacher, a homeschooling parent, or a brand new microschool founder who is trying to figure out what comes next, you need to hear this. Microschool Masterminds is the community and coaching program I wish I had when I first stepped out of the classroom and built our microschool. Yes, straight from the living room to now nearly over 100 students thriving in year 6. This is where teachers and founders finally get the roadmap, the support, and the systems to create a thriving microschool without burning out. Inside Microschool Masterminds, you will receive weekly live coaching with me and other powerful professionals who discuss strategy, solutions, and provide personal support. You also receive step-by-step modules to build your school legally, financially, and operationally. Marketing enrollment done for you with training that works even if you've never advertised before, and you can learn this on your own time through our Microschool Masterminds classroom modules. Worried about multi-age classrooms or curriculum? We've got you covered with our curriculum planning resources. You receive templates, checklists, scripts, and systems for marketing, financial systems, operations, community building, and growth. Everything is ready for you to plug in and go. Most importantly, you have access to a powerful community of other founders who understand your dreams and your fears. Whether you're starting really slow, or you're still teaching the classroom and you're dreaming of breaking free, or you're already running your micro school but feeling overwhelmed, trying to figure out also how to build a hybrid program. This is a place where you gain clarity, confidence, and of course, a plan. Because you don't have to do this alone. You deserve guidance, you deserve support, and your micro school deserves to grow with ease, not chaos. If you're ready to redream education and take the next step, join us inside Microschool Masterminds, where together we are building this education system better. Head over to redreameducation.com/masterminds to learn more. Again, that's redreameducation.com/masterminds. Now, there is definitely, if you want, you could literally create like a fit checklist that parents, teachers can actually use. And this is almost like an observable sign. Fit number 1, your child is known. Do the adults in the building, all the adults in the building, know your child beyond academics, strengths, triggers, confidence, learning style? I can say that every single staff member knows these children, even the one person on our staff who does the maintenance around our school. We know our students. Fit sign number 2. Your child is growing or a student is growing even if it is uneven, because growth isn't always linear. Sometimes kids leap, sometimes they plateau, and then they leap again. I definitely believe that as our school moves more into a mastery-based approach, meaning that we specifically work with each child on their level to master a concept before moving on. And yes, there are times where you are teaching something and it's just not clicking and you need to just stop, move on to something else, but don't forget to come back to it. I was actually just speaking to a teacher who said, I have been working with a couple of students over and over and over and over. I don't know any other tool to teach it any other way. We've extended this unit, long division. And I said, I think we end the unit. We move on to something else. Their brain it's just not clicking. We come back in about 6 weeks and we reteach it again. And maybe by that time, their little synapses in their brain start firing away again. They've matured a little bit. They've had some rest and some break over it. And that's the point, is to revisit. A mastery-based learning approach has an average effect size of 0.59, which means it's a medium to large effect on students' learning, mastery-based learning. So when schools focus on mastery and feedback loops, student outcomes improve. So let me give you an example of what personalized mastery-based reading would look like, kindergarten through 5th. So in a traditional model, a whole class would read the same book at the same pace. Some kids are bored, some are lost, everyone moves on anyway. So an example would be at our school at Lighthouse Learning in a K-5 classroom, students are grouped by reading skill, not age. So one student is working on phonics and decoding, short vowels, blends, fluency, practice. Another student is building reading stamina and comprehension with chapter books, and another student is analyzing text, making inferences, and writing responses. And it's all based on that child's skill, not their age. All of this can happen at the same time in the same room, but what we have found at Lighthouse Learning is that we are actually going to have a walk-to model for this specific reading instruction, kindergarten through 5th. So the teacher is pulling a small group for targeted instruction, listening to a child read aloud, and adjusting the lessons based on their progress. And what parents will notice at home is that their child isn't avoiding reading, their confidence improves, and reading finally clicks at their pace. Let's talk about middle school as a math example. In a traditional school, everyone would move through the same unit at the same speed. If you miss something, it absolutely compounds. But an example at Lighthouse Learning would be that middle school students work through a mastery-based pathway. One student may be solidifying fractions and ratios, another is applying pre-algebra concepts, and another one is extending algebraic thinking and possibly even going into geometry. And I know what you're thinking. How in the world do you do it, and what type of curriculum do you use? Man, oh man, is that for another podcast? We have tried so many, and honestly, we are at the juncture of not only creating our own, but hiring curriculum developers to help us so that we can scale effectively and go much deeper with our students. Because we don't want students to move forward until they truly understand the concept. This means that if the student is struggling, they pause, they get targeted support, the teacher will reteach in a different way, and gaps are filled before moving on. But if a student is excelling, they move ahead, they may apply the math to real-world problems, but they are building confidence instead of waiting. So this allows for less math anxiety. Whew, I know how that is. Fewer tears, and trust me, I know how that is as a mom of teenage girls. More independence and ownership. In non-traditional schools, you are going to see a more personalized, mastery-based environment. And if you're not seeing that, I would definitely question with a sense of curiosity about how the program is tailored to meet the students' needs. After our open house this past week, we had an overwhelming amount of parents say, what I love most about this program is that my student is actually going to get personalized instruction. Now, with that comes teacher development. It comes a philosophy. It comes a mindset shift. And it's not to be considered taking lightly. It's very intentional. But children are not compared to each other in non-traditional schools. They are compared to their own growth. Now back to our core 4 here and looking at, okay, fit number 1, is your child known? Fit number 2, is your child growing even if it's uneven? Fit number 3, does your child feel safe to try or to fail or try again? Because if your child is willing to attempt hard things again, that's an enormous indicator of a very healthy learning environment. And number 4 is, do you feel invited to partnership? Do you feel like the staff will communicate clearly and early, or do you feel like you only hear something when it becomes a crisis? Fit over fear. So we talked about all the fit signs, but really we have to look at the fit over the fear. And this is where our mindset really does begin to shift. Instead of fear questions, we want to ask alignment questions. So a fear question would be, will my child fall behind? What if this isn't really school? Will colleges respect this? What if other people judge us? What if the test score isn't what I hoped? But an alignment-based question would say, is my child becoming more confident? Are they happier? Are they improving in skills that used to be hard? Do they feel safe? Do they feel supported? Do we have clear communication? Is there a plan if my child struggles? Is the environment helping my child want to learn? Is my child eager to go to school? Is my child engaged? Do I see the fruit of this investment? This is why you're seeing so many families explore alternatives. More parents are actively searching for options, not because they're anti-school, but because they're trying to find the right fit. So in the past month, we have been giving families growth snapshots, and they're really like a mid-year check-in. It is a standardized assessment. We use a STAR assessment, can use multiple, but that is a standardized assessment. And I explain this to our parents. There's a standardized assessment, and then there are personal assessments, like the assessment that we give for students to see what phonics level they are on, what fluency grade level they are on, what is the vocabulary context and content that we can use to increase and support their vocabulary. What is their comprehension level? That is a personalized assessment, not a standardized. And I will tell you, it's a snapshot, not a label. It's information that helps support your child. And I have found that not only whenever we send that growth report home, our teachers have a checklist, and without giving grades, they actually show and document progress for the students. They can also add notes, and we just want to give a mid-year check-in to our families before they receive their actual report cards. We've done it several ways. We've done before where we have not given actual grades. We did informal evaluations and checklists. We've done some type of mastery-based approach as well. We've done report cards and grades because some parents had really wanted that. But as our school grows and we see the model that we are building and what is very clear communication-wise, we will be going more towards a mastery-based learning, but also reporting, which means that your child has been taught these skills. This is what they passed. This is what they still need to work on. Your child has learned these topics and units in math. This is what they've mastered. This is what they still need to work on. That's the difference between mastery-based grading or mastery-based teaching versus the traditional one size, as you've heard, fits all. Listen, the right school isn't the one with the loudest reputation. It's the one where your child is seen, supported, and steadily growing. If you are in a season of doubt, I want you to hear this. Doubt doesn't mean you made a bad choice. It means you're paying attention, and that's exactly what great parents do. It is time to redream education and to actually take that next step. Join us in Microschool Masterminds every single week for live group coaching, self-paced modules, and of course, a powerful community. Head on over to redreameducation.com/masterminds and join us in our free Facebook group at Redream Education Microschool Community. To learn more, that's redreameducation.com/masterminds.